Okay, hello. This is some information I want people to help me with. I'm doing a research project on uh, something that two people now have mentioned to me. Two people have mentioned something to me, and even though I wanted to schedule this, um, I'm very bad at holding onto information because I've already held on to three different facts in connection with this that I'm not going to talk about unless people are going to debate me. If people debate me, then I have a few different killer arguments. But the basic premise is this connection between Tamari, um, which is something that I've been researching for about a year. So Tamari, I've been researching for a year. The Gnostic flight from Judea narrative, I have not been researching. This is something new. Two or three people now have mentioned it. And I think that I'm getting a message through these people. I think these people are being used as messengers to get me closer to the truth. Because it is so mind-blowing, the connections. Hey, hello. Hi, Corpus. This is one of my first times on YouTube Live. I've gone on TikTok Live, Instagram Live quite often, but I think this is going to be my day. I think this time of day this time of day is a really good time for me to talk more freely about things, because I feel like on a podcast you stick to a few topics and you stick to a script, or not a script. I never stick to any scripts, but like talking points. And with freely discussing something or freely communicating with people, which I did on Sunday as well on Instagram. I freely just spoke and just it helps you focus your mind, because I think when you're on your own doing research, you get really far with the research. But if you're open about it and you're just discussing things with people, I have had so many people help me, and just three different pieces of information that I couldn't have received if it wasn't for somebody talking to me, or somebody saying, have you considered this, or have you ever looked at this? So there is a core legend here, and I have to be careful, because I myself have been a Christian my whole life. My mother took me to Bible studies when I lived in Germany. I was a Jehovah's Witness. I was baptized. I was that's how I learned how to be confident about speaking in front of hundreds of people at a very young age. I had a very severe stammer when I was young, and I got over that through being taught how to speak publicly. So I owe a lot of things to the Bible: my inquisitive nature, my research skills, my knowledge of biblical scripture. And I know that I believe that we're being given symbols and messages all the time. Numerology messages are being communicated to us all the time. And I felt so strongly about this that it's too much now. I can't hold on to it. I've looked at maps of Tartaria for many years. It's been a passionate research project. Look at Tartaria, look at maps of Tartaria. Try to find out more about what this empire was. And now it's not hundreds, it's thousands of people looking into it. So this is not going away. When you see the connection between Tamari and Tartaria, and the connection between the old names for America, which I believe it was part of Tartaria, the connection is so prolific that you start seeing references, descriptions, footnotes on old maps to Jesus Christ, to Jesus's kingdom, Jesus's kingdom here on earth. And even though Jesus' kingdom was always in heaven, the references to his kingdom on earth are very important, and they are on the maps of Tartary. And it could be one of the major motivations behind hiding Tartaria from people, from the public, removing it. For at least 200 years, we've had no mention of Tartaria on any maps, and I think this is going to. I already kind of feel like I can see the future. I know that Tartaria will be recognized as this kingdom of Jesus on earth. That there was a kingdom, there was more to his life. There are missing 1.5 decades of his life anyway. But after his death, after the resurrection, that he did have a life and he did have a daughter. And upon doing this research, looking into the jewel law, the identity synthesis, looking into the connection with Saint Sarah, Sarah Lakali, and looking into the Gnostic belief of Maris de la Mer, or Mary of the sea goddess, living in Taiwan, seeing the sea goddess connection and her traveling throughout the world, and the connection with fertility, and Tama, the name Tama, often called Sara Tama, Tamari. And then we know Tamari was the original name for the United States of America, at least the largest area of Tamari was the United States. So if that was part of the United States, then there were many states. Obviously, there wasn't just Tamari. There was also the Black Soul people, Kushata, and there was also Amaruka, which is the name that we know America, that we know is the United States of Amaruka today. But there is some lore from books that were removed from the Bible of a legendary journey that Jesus undertook. So this is called the Flight of Judea, where it states that after Jesus' crucifixion, a group of early Christians were placed on a boat by the Romans, and they wanted them to basically die. This is a traditional thing the Romans and the Moors did, where they put people onto a boat and they gave them no rudder, no way of moving, and they just left them out to sea, to basically float in the ocean. And this was I guess a parallel of this would be maybe what the Barbary coast pirates did, where they made you walk the plank, and they would be put in a boat without any rudder. And what the theory is, especially the fear that the Romans had of Jesus after him somehow moving this millstone, these gigantic circular stone discs that were used by oxen, by the bulls, to grind grain and create flour for cooking, for baking, right? That millstone was removed, and these are gigantic. These are bigger than a person. They're like 8-foot high giant stones, sandstone, and this was removed, and this couldn't have been removed by anyone. I mean, you need a large group of people. The Roman guards would have noticed, and this was removed from the entrance to Jesus's tomb, and Jesus escapes. His body is gone, so people are thinking that his body was stolen. The Christians decided to, his followers, the apostles decided to steal his body, and after this, not being able to hide this, for the Romans not being able to hide this, because even removing the millstone is almost impossible. Once it's in place, it is rolled into a bevel kind of a floor kind of I don't know what you would call it, like a gully. It is moved into a gully. You have to lift it up and move the stone, so it's almost impossible for the millstone to have moved. So that was a magical event that infused the Christians or followers of Jesus Christ at the time, and this was a miracle. And then the secondary miracle was that the boat miraculously crossed the Mediterranean, landing in the southern coast of what some people call France. So Jesus' daughter, it ends up in France. And Tama is the palm tree. That's where the name comes from. The original name of the United States of America is Tamaray. It comes from the palm tree or the date tree in Hebrew. So the French Moors were Hebrews, and they called her this. The French Christians knew that she was there in what is modern day France. Obviously, France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, all of these are constructs that were designed for us in the last 250 years. Before that, there was no differentiation between Spain and Africa. There was no differentiation. Spain was a part of this Moorish Empire. The Moorish Empire was the Roman Empire. There's no differentiation between the Romans and the Moors at all. The water irrigation, the architecture, the culture, the food, the diet, the aqueducts. This is an ancient civilization. So when the Moors conquered Europe in 711 AD, they were just trying to reconquer and reunite this Tamari, this ancient myth. The motivation for the Moors was to spread Christianity, not the Muslim. The Muslims came through what is modern day Africa, but the Christian belief structure was carried by the Ethiopian and the Moorish empire. So we have this. We are always told, right, that there is a difference between Christianity and Orthodox Russian, for example, the Orthodox Church in Russia. We are told that there's a difference between the belief structure of the Muslims and the Christians, but they align on so many things. So many things are connected, like the belief in Jesus, the belief in his family, the belief in the empire of Jesus's daughter, Jesus's wife, Mary Magdalene. Even though our modern day kind of concept of marriage doesn't apply, obviously. Jesus wasn't a Christian. Jesus is just what the Romans ended up latching onto. Emperor Constantine wanted to maintain his colonies, to maintain his empire, and this is the empire of Tamari that we're talking about. This is the Moors. So you can't deny that the oldest Bible is in Ethiopia to this day. You can't deny this. You can't deny that Tamari is the name of Jesus' daughter, Tamar, the palm tree. The palm tree was significant. It was laid on the ground when Jesus entered into his kingdom on earth. There was a kingdom on earth, not just a kingdom in the heavens. There was a kingdom on earth. Modern day Jerusalem is not the original Jerusalem. The original Jerusalem is in America. The original Sea of Galilee was in America. The Sea of Galilee is too small for the boats to sink, for the tumultuous scriptures of boats being capsized. The Sea of Galilee, that what we think is the Sea of Galilee today, is too small, and it is too far away from the cities. If you read scriptures, there are journeys that were taken to the Sea of Galilee, and it just doesn't work. Modern day Galilee, Sea of Galilee, is not the modern day, is not the actual biblical Sea of Galilee. But you can find the original Sea of Galilee, which is, I think, really important. It's important to find the real Sea of Galilee, which is in the United States. Otherwise, you're always going to be lost. Unfortunately, you're always going to be lost. You're not going to really understand what's going on. So the Sea of Galilee is in the United States. So the Sea of Galilee is in the United States. It is actually um, uh, I think it is fresh water. It's a freshwater lake. Now, the Sea of Galilee in Israel is far too small um, for the different stories that took place there, because Jesus spent a lot of time there. So we have another Sea of Galilee, um, which is Galilee is actually a coastal fishing village in the United States. So the location is at Point Judith within the town of Narragansett, which sounds a lot like Nazareth. Narragansett. Can you see how, if there is a reset, we'll still find the original places? Because Narragansett in Rhode Island sounds a lot like Nazareth. Can you see how they have to leave the actual original, the true name of these places? The old world is America, the United States. So what can you find there? Well, the largest commercial fishing fleet in Rhode Island is the main port of Block Island Ferry, and it's quite a beautiful tourist attraction too. I think there are people who know that the Sea of Galilee in the United States, in Rhode Island, is the real Sea of Galilee from the Bible. It is not the tiny lake in Israel, even though surrounding cities have the same names. I've just realized that there are cities around there which are exactly the same. Like, for example, you have the Mille Lacs Lake in Minnesota, and the Sea of Galilee measures about 13 miles long. So you could have, I mean, it would be one of those great miracles of Jesus walking on water. You also have a storm where the fishing boats capsized, because that's where Jesus picked many of his apostles. He picked them; they were fishermen, and it could not have been in modern day Israel. So we're talking here about the Great Lakes. Now, many of the Great Lakes did not exist on old maps of the 1800s even. So some of those are flooded cities, flooded towns, flooded biblical locations. It's not just about real estate and trying to take over real estate and important historical structures. It's about hiding the truth. The truth is coming out. Nothing will stop it. Nothing will stop it. It's too late. This is the time. So the Great Lakes, obviously the Great Lakes are flooded cities. This is not what the Sea of Galilee is, not that size. Yeah, so if you want to go to Galilee, Rhode Island is the place where you need to go. That's the real, if you want to go to the real biblical, based on my research. So there are many faith-based pilgrimages there already, because obviously the Gnostics know the truth. They were the ones that created a fake Israel, Sea of Galilee in Israel, modern day Israel, to keep it safe. But if you really study the Bible, you understand the size of it. It just wouldn't work. None of those scriptures would work. There is another very important clue that I can show you. There is a scripture in the Bible that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the Sea of Galilee is America. It is not Israel. And I'm going to tell you that today, because you're here, and this is the power I've been granted. So I just want to tell you what my research has shown. If you actually look at Israel and the Sea of Galilee in Israel, this is a little bit complicated. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this without showing the map. But the Sea of Galilee is in scriptures, and that's why it's so important. So the Sea of Galilee in Israel is in a very long journey that was undertaken, and this is a scripture in the Bible that we can reference. There is or there was a considerable journey that was undertaken. Yeah, and this is the journey where Jesus. I mean, Jesus spent a lot of time in the towns and mountains around this freshwater lake. About 70% of his public ministry. And event number 1 is Mark 1:16-20, where he calms a storm in the Sea of Galilee. Again, because of the size of the Sea of Galilee in Israel, this was not possible. So while journeying across the sea by boat with his disciples, a violent windstorm arose. And Jesus rebuked the wind and waves to instantly calm the waters. So this is Mark 4:35 and 41, and also Mark 8:32. And it's also mentioned by Luke in Luke 8:22. So these are eyewitnesses of that event. Not all of them are eyewitnesses. Some of them would have written this down much later, but we also have the so this is not possible, I don't think, in a small lake. If you look at the Lake of Galilee in Israel, it is tiny. You're not going to have a storm there. In America, the Sea of Galilee in the United States, however, is big enough. So we have the walking on water, following the feeding of 5,000, magically feeding 5,000 people. Jesus walked out onto the water to meet his disciples' boat during a midnight storm. We have another storm. This also, it's not a big deal to kind of walk across a small, I mean, it's a big deal to walk on water, I guess, but swimming would have sufficed. Whereas the Sea of Galilee in the United States is a sea. It's not a lake. It wouldn't have been called a sea if it was the Sea of Galilee, the Lake of Galilee in Israel. And Jesus waited on the shoreline of Galilee. He waited there straight after he was resurrected. And so the catching of fish is very important. You're not going to be catching many fish in the Sea of Galilee if you believe it is in Israel. However, in Rhode Island, you will have a plethora of fish. It is popular when it comes to fishing. It has incredible marine life because it's a much larger size. We also have a journey that was undertaken from the coast of the ocean, which also I'll try and find a scripture for that one, which also makes you think that on a map, if you look at a map of Rhode Island, the journey seems realistic. So in the Sea of Galilee in Rhode Island, this is I think one of the best ones. One of the best examples. You have you have Jesus walking to I think the coast, to the Dead Sea. So this is an unusual, this is an illogical journey. Whereas if you look at the Sea of Galilee in Rhode Island, this journey makes sense, to journey from the Dead Sea. Now there is also a Dead Sea in the United States. You don't understand how, like many people don't understand how this cannot be coincidence. So I have a pretty good image here. I'm not sure if I can show that. Yeah. So the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee has some very interesting Other city names. I'm going to read out some of them. So we have, okay, this is a Rhode Island. Rhode Island and the Sea of Galilee. I'm just going to read out some of the towns, and you tell me if we're onto something. Okay, the first one here is Narragansett. Sounds a lot like Nazareth. Yeah. So we have a lot of English town names, which is kind of weird. We have the Fall River. Yeah. We have the I got it, Scarborough Estate. That's interesting. A lot of King's towns. This is weird, man. Like, there's a Coventry. There's Greenwich, Warwick, Providence. Obviously, it's not far from Providence. We have a Bristol, a Portsmouth, a Newport. These are all British towns. This is very, very strange. Okay. Yes. So the journey to the Dead Sea makes sense if it's in the United States. It makes absolutely no sense if you are in Israel. You wouldn't take that journey. It's far too long. You couldn't do that. And you wouldn't go back to the sea afterwards to get to the next city. This is actually something I didn't think about. Okay, so let's have a look at it again. Let's start again. Okay, Jesus' journey to the Sea of Galilee, and then a return. And if we look at scripture, I'm going to try to get that journey from the scripture too. Yeah, so he was focusing on calling his disciples, performing miracles, and teaching. Key events include calling the fishermen, calming the storm, walking on water, feeding 5,000. We've done that one. Why is the Sea of Galilee so small in Israel? I don't think that's the real one. Yeah. So walking by the Sea of Galilee, Jesus called Peter, Andrew, James, and John, telling them he would make them fishers of men. I don't know how many fishermen, like if it's Rhode Island, there's a lot of fish. There would be many fishing communities there. It's a little sea. But in Israel, it's just not. There's just, I don't think there's much fishing, and I don't think it's big enough. You wouldn't have that many different types of fish. And you wouldn't have a storm. So this is one of the main arguments. So you have this, he goes to the sea, fishing on the Sea of Tiberias, which is another name for Galilee. Now, there is a Tiberias, okay, this is my other one. There is a Tiberias and a Capernaum, I think. Yeah, so let's go back to the, let's try to argue that these towns are in the United States, not in Israel. Or the size of the towns and the size of the fishing community. Yeah, there is also another scripture that I wanted to read in Matthew, which tells us about a later journey that Jesus takes after his resurrection, where he most definitely is not walking around Israel, he's walking around the United States. Okay, so this is an interesting parallel. So where is Capernaum? There are two cities we need to find. Jesus appeared to his disciples fishing on the Sea of Tiberias. Now, Tiberias, I'm pretty sure, is also in the United States, which it would have to be because we want everything to be in the United States if our theory is to hold. And Tiberias is also in the United States. Oh my, no, that is not, was? Okay. Tiberias, USA. Let's have a look at the map. So, in America, we have, it could be a very large plot or very large scheme to recreate everything geometrically, which is maniacal if it is a scheme, if it's not truth, if it's just some kind of elaborate psychosis for some multi-billionaire. But okay, there is there is also Tiberias and Nazareth, and I can't believe it because I keep going back. I just double check, triple check, quadruple check this stuff because it is the most insane rabbit hole. Because the Sea of Galilee, Nazareth, Tiberias. How is this even? How could anyone do this? See, this is when I believe in time travel and aliens, because I don't know how anyone could have created these cities, identical locations of these cities in the United States. I mean, I don't know, it's just beyond, okay. So we have we have basically, let's just remember, right? We have a Rome, we have LA, we found LA, we found, obviously everyone knows LA means city of angels, right? So we have the angels, where the angels resided, and where the angels came from, because they needed a place on earth. LA was that city. Then we have a Rome. We have the original Rome in the northwest. So that's been found, that's been double checked, triple checked. The Rome in Italy is fake. The real Rome is northwest of the United States. That's the real Rome. You don't want that to be for anyone to know it's the real Rome, because you want to sell the real estate, and you want to own the buildings and the structures and the temples and the, you know, the beauty, the richness of the land, not just the architecture. And it's everything's underground anyway, so you've never seen it. I've never seen it. It's all mud flooded anyway. They're excavating. They have these cities underground, these tunnels underground. You can visit the original. What do you want to visit? What, the Pantheon? You want to go to the Pantheon? It's underground. You have to go into tunnels underground. They've excavated it. It's caves. They're all supported with concrete. You're not going to see it. You have to become a really high level part of some secret society so they can trust you. They want to own the real estate of the most important historical cities in the history of the human race. So Rome is in America. Chicago is or Chilaga, which we would call that Babylon, or I mean, Babylon is not even a city. We're not even talking about a city. Jerusalem obviously is right in the middle. Jerusalem is right in the middle of the United States. Now, Tamari going to France, Scotia going to Scotland, all of these important daughters of great pharaohs, historical figures. Obviously, Jesus Christ. He also had a son. I'm not going to talk about it today, still researching this. But Tamari was the original name for the entire Northern American continent. So Tamari, for a long time. That's where we get the name Tartary from. So when they hide Tartary for 4 generations now, they've hidden Tartary from us. In the Chinese, I found it everywhere, all over the temples. It's called Dao Dao. I was talking to someone on Sunday in one of the oldest temples here, and he was telling me, yes, nobody's saying that the Chinese built the Great Wall of China. No, nobody's saying that these temples are Chinese. The Chinese were trying to destroy temples during the Great Cultural Revolution. They were trying to remove all of the Taoist or Buddhist temples from mainland China. You simply don't do that if it's part of your empire, your history. You're not going to destroy it. You can't. It's deity worship anyway. It's not religion as far as China's concerned. But the irony is that even the Mongolians have they plant crucifixes on top of the burial ground of Genghis Khan because they know that's that family lineage. But you can't separate Christianity like we are told to. Our whole lives we're told that a Muslim is not a Christian, a Hindu is not a Christian. It's all one religion. It's just different books that we've decided to construct a religious identity around. But that's insane. Almost everything is insane when you think about how it all began. Jesus was just a chosen son that came down. We shouldn't say that Jesus is God, but I know many people will have that belief. But I personally don't. So New York was the old Troy or Croy, and then we have the true New Troy, which was New York, which is London, Londinium. So today I wanted to carry on with trying to show that it is very difficult to find all of these kind of Christian locations in the United States, but you can find them. The Sea of Galilee is one of my favorite ones because if it was in Israel, the journey that Jesus took in Matthew wouldn't make sense. However, if it is in America, it makes perfect sense. It's now a sea and it's big enough for all of the fishing culture and communities that were thriving there. So let's go back to Tiberias. Tiberias in America. Tiberias in America. Now, Tiberias in America is obviously, as we know now, the old name for Galilee. Why is that name being used? So, it's just another name. Sometimes using the old name is a good way to hide the original location. That's what I've seen many times. So I'm going to start with that. We are going to get to the truth. That's the point. It's not easy though, because now and again you think that you have the answer, and then you realize that sneakily they miscategorized one of the photos. Jerusalem, yeah. I'm not sure if the song was about the UK. That's really interesting. I mean, I'm kind of like doing research as I'm chatting with you. But that's interesting. I know that New Troy, under the rule of the Trojan general Brutus, then from his name, the general's name, the name for Great Britain was derived, and the original Trojan city was New York City, and it's also in the name because York was the capital city of England before it was called Londinium, right, by the Romans. So York is Troy backwards. That was the trick. So York is Troy. York is the Hebrew. By the way, all the Irish are Hebrew, and so are the Scotch. They all came from America, the Hebrew land of Tamari, the daughter of Jesus Christ. She was saved from the Moorish invasions because she was in France. France, interestingly enough, did have a Moorish king and royal family that were beheaded at the revolution. Yeah, the revolution went pretty bad. I mean, there was a complete reset. You can see that when you go to the catacombs. Just millions of skeletons. I mean, but they were skeletons. They were organized. The catacombs were organized once they were already skeletons. So this is a long time ago. This is a mud flood. This is a reset. This is the Great Flood of Noah's Day. If you take away the timeline, like Pope Gregory added on 400 years. Then we have our own historians who are complete liars, who just added on another 1,000 years because they didn't know what the J and the I for the Germanic Yara meant. Germanic also connected to Yiddish and Hebrew. If you tell somebody that Hebrew is connected to Greek, for example, they take it very personally. I've done that. And they get very angry. They think that you're attacking their heritage, their culture. But you're just talking about the language and how the language was taken from another language. So the Tower of Babel, we all get these different languages. That was that event where Hebrew became all these different European languages until we're literally looshing, taking energy from each other with a complete reverse Hebrew, which is the angel looshing language of English, where we're literally saying good morning at the time of the day when we should say happy rising, but instead we're saying mourning the death of someone, and then we have the weekend, the week end of the deal, and days, we're in the days, and we are weak because it's a week and we are weak, and then we have all these pagan names for everything. Like, why would the Christians call Saturday Saturday? Why would they worship Saturn? Do you know what I mean? I think the Vatican have done nothing but hide pagan religion within our desire to worship the one true God. But the Vaticano is also also the Moorish black, the black royal lineage, and it was set up by them. It is basically the Roman Empire, the Moorish Empire today. So we have Tiberius, which is built. Yeah, it's really changed. It's a very fertile land in the United States, just like in the Bible. Whereas in Israel, there really isn't much. It's kind of a pretty desolate area. But the connection between Israel, that's something I haven't really thought about. The connection between Israel and America is a very powerful one. It's kind of like Israel and Morocco, or Israel and Liberia. They have some powerful connections, like a mirror, like a religious reflection of themselves, almost like a country and a civilization pulled out of another realm, a parallel universe almost. And I think that's what it is. I think the real Morocco is in America, and then you have this mirror Morocco, this fake Morocco. Then you have the real Liberia, which is probably one of the most important countries for the United States, because it is where the initial Moorish kings went to. They were all given land there, and they were all told to stay there. And they were all written into the history. The original presidents of the United States were all written into the history of Liberia. This is not hard to find. This information is flying around everywhere. Then obviously there's Israel and America, this connection, where you are copying and pasting an entire map of the Promised Land into another narrative and another country. And this, I think, is the idea of the Black Mirror in Central Park, those large black reflective buildings. I think that's the whole point of the water basins, the reflective pool, the Egyptian obelisks. And I'm starting to learn more about where the power is, or where these myths and legends actually take us. So Tiberius, if you compare Israel to the United States, it is a lush, beautiful land full of incredible fishing cultures and communities. Whereas in Israel, it really isn't. It doesn't have the same. It doesn't look right. It's not big enough for the storms in the Bible. It's not big enough to meet fishermen. I mean, Rhode Island has incredible fishing tourism, and it's cold, and it has to have the true name. Otherwise, it will be lost forever. We will never know where the true Jerusalem was, the true Rome, the actual Troy was. But we can find that out because they've left breadcrumbs for us. In case there's another reset, we can look back at maps of the 1800s and we can find it. That's the key. The key is we don't want to completely forget where Jesus lived. we don't want to completely forget that he had a daughter and that her name is Tamari, and that was the name of the United States. Before obviously the European empires came in the 1700s and started World War One. But World War One, you could say, happened in the 1400s when it was attacked by everyone. Every European empire, every one of these great European Moorish colonies forced out the Moorish kings and followed them to America because they wanted more money. Finally, the Slav takes over the empire in the 1400s, 1440s, and then he follows the Barbary Coast pirates. Hello, peace to you too, John. And they follow all of the Moorish armies back home to Tamari. Yeah. And if the name of America wasn't Tamari before the 1400s, if it wasn't Tamari, I would have never found the connection between Tamari, Sarah Tamari, Jesus' daughter, in the Gnostic belief. Can I honestly say personally that I believe Jesus had a daughter? I am on the verge of beginning to say that I can prove it now. I'm looking for at least 6 or 7 ways that I can prove that Jesus did have a daughter after he was resurrected. There are many people who believe this. There are many Gnostics who believe this. They believe that the core legend and journey was the flight from Judea, where law states that after Jesus' crucifixion, a group of these Christians were placed into boats without a rudder. This was a kind of Roman torture of the time of Herod Agrippa. And then we have the arrival in Gaul. This is the boat miraculously crossed the Mediterranean. Now, could a boat cross the Mediterranean without a rudder with a bunch of Christians in? Yes, I think it could. And I think if God is protecting them, absolutely. So it landed on the southern coast of France, which is now called Santas Maris de la Mar. So we have this constant reference to Mary, and I think that's all thanks to the Moors, to be honest with you. I think Christianity was brought from America. I don't think Christianity was brought from Europe to America. I think it was brought from America to Europe. So I think the child's identity, modern esoteric theories refer to the child as Sarah Tamari or Sarah Tamar. And the name Tamar translates to the palm tree. So these are the palm trees that were laid down at Jesus' feet when he enters the city, or leaves the city, leaves Jerusalem, and he is declaring, but the Romans knew that he had a kingdom. They knew that he was going to be king of an actual physical kingdom. And that's why they were so scared of him, and that's, I think, why in the end he was actually crucified. It wasn't because the Sadducees and the Pharisees kind of didn't like what he was saying. I don't think the Romans cared too much about that. The Romans were concerned about one thing, and that is keeping the colony turning over profit, keeping the empire. Yeah, that's what Herod Antipas, Herod Agrippa, all of these people were these kings or appointed magistrates. They were given that mission: keep the colony profitable and keep it under control, and try to minimize any revolutionary, potential revolutionary actions. And that's why they were so scared, because I think Jesus in the end did remove. I think Jesus was the reason for the Roman Empire starting to kind of lose power severely, much more than we're told in history books. Remember, our history is written by the modern day Roman Empire, the Vaticano. Yeah, Vaticano, the dragon people. You have to translate these into Hebrew, like Vaticano, Vati, viper, yeah, snake, like serpent goddesses. Right? You see serpent goddesses all over the world. Doesn't matter where you go. Like even here, I've seen a serpent god. She has serpents, one in each hand. Looks a lot like Mesopotamian and Iberian Peninsula, like snake goddesses. Yeah. So what we're saying, what essentially the theory is that Saint Sarah, or Sarah Lakali, or Sarah Tamari, um, is the patron saint of the Romani people, the true Romanis, and that there is a Jew law that, and a medieval church legends state that Saint Sarah was an Egyptian servant traveling with the biblical martyrs. And there's another legend that claims that she was a local princess or daughter of Mary Magdalene. These connections are so incredible, because how you have to free your mind, because a lot of people will call that, you if you believe this, or you're telling people this is apostate behavior, or this is like, but you have to have freedom of speech. There's no way you can achieve anything. You can get closer to truth, or any evolution can happen. And I think the ultimate freedom. Yes, too many. I have like 20, over 20 now. It's too many. I can't just shut up and pretend that it's not true. Even though I'm still not 100% convinced, like I make it so hard for myself. That's why I think when I come up with a theory, trust me, there have been hours of research already. And I have researched, like, so I had Guy Anderson tell me, oh, Tamari, yes, yeah, that's the name, right, of Jesus' daughter. And I was like, what? I was like, because he's presuming that I made that connection just because I saw the name. The name, obviously, I know Mary is Mary, the mother of Jesus, so I know it's Mary. But then when you think about the daughter, I know he had a daughter. I know it now, deep inside. I know every good, I think every high frequency man gets that blessing potentially to have a daughter, right? I really do. So many throughout history examples of this. This is like a firstborn daughter type thing in almost every generation. And I think that daughter is the mother. She's like the mother. Because we are thinking of ourselves as biological animals, but we shouldn't. We should think of ourselves as duplicating an algorithm over and over again. Because this is ancestral knowledge. This is not, some interesting like thing you read once. So annual pilgrimages every year on May the 24th, and we are in May. So there's a big thing happening, which accidentally happened to be on the 24th for me. Thousands gather in Santas Marias de la Mer to carry a dark-skinned statue of Sarah to the sea, mirroring the mythical maritime arrival of the daughter of Jesus. You get goosebumps, man, because this is something that I didn't learn this. Nobody spoke about this. I never learnt about this, and I was like studying the Bible for most of my life. Within obviously a hierarchical, institutionalized religion, which I think is a problem when we don't really become the text. The text doesn't really imprint on us if we're part of just a ritualistic institution. Yeah, like here's your contribution, here's the book you have to read, here's the scripture you have to read, here's this, and you go into a routine and you achieve nothing because it's not imprinting on you. You're not connecting with it. But maybe you need that as a foundation. You need to have an academic knowledge of the Bible as a foundation. So there's also a royal marriage, that Sarah Tamar married into local European nobility. So that's my next thing. I'm gonna try to find out which royal lineage is. So if it's France, then that means it's a European royal lineage. And we need to find out what Moorish European lineage is the lineage of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And I think if those are people that were maybe tortured, or if those were people that were maybe decapitated, like a lot of people were in France at the revolution. I'm worried that that might be connected to maybe maybe some of the royal French black nobility. And are those people still being hounded today? Is life still being made hard for those people today? And who are they? And what family line? That's interesting. So we do have the Merovingian dynasty of the French kings. So the Merovingian or the Merovingian is a black noble royal French family lineage. So hatred towards France. Then we have a lot of generals' achievements being put under the bracket of the new Apollo, Neapolitan or Napoleon, Bonaparte. So, is the Napoleon lineage part of that? Because Napoleon, if there are two theories here, was he a real person? Did he conquer a large part of Europe? What was his desire to go to Africa, or to go to Egypt? Or did he go to Egypt, or did he go to America? Maybe he didn't go to Egypt. Maybe he went to America. And the story of him destroying the Sphinx, because I don't think he just hit the nose of the Sphinx. I think he destroyed the entire Sphinx. Did Napoleon consider himself to be in the line of Jesus? Because he called himself Neo Apollo, born apart. So Neo Apollo means the new Apollo. So is Apollo evil, or is Apollo actually good? Because we are always told Apollo is essentially Lucifer, right? So did every Moorish general or Moorish king in the line of Jesus call himself, every son of Tamari, did they call themselves the new Apollo? Yeah. So there wasn't one single individual who was Napoleon. There were probably multiple Napoleons, because Neapollo only means new Apollo, new king. So Neapollo, could be the new Apollo. Paul. Can you see that? You see that? Paul, the head of the foundation and the first pope, was called Paul. So is new Paul new Apollo? So anybody could really be king of France. Or where does the word Frank come from? French. What is French? What does it mean? What is the French language? Because it's a very beautiful language. It's probably far closer to Hebrew than German, or maybe Arabic than German. So the French language itself has more in common maybe with Hebrew than other European languages. That's something that I've always thought. We also have the concepts that serves a foundational premise for alternative history. So you have the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, and people kind of like this, daughter of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. They like to make stories about it. They like to make books and movies and fictional narratives about it, to push it into the fictional realm, so that you never find out if you're related to Jesus, or you never find out if you're related to Tamari, and you never find out that the real Hebrews are the Native Americans, because they want the real estate of true historical significance. They want to own Rome. They want to own Jerusalem. They want to own the real Sea of Galilee, the real cities, the real Nazareth. They want to own it. They want to sell it, because if you admit where the real Nazareth is, you cannot buy it. You cannot sell it. You cannot give it away to anyone. You cannot own it. You cannot stay there and harvest the energy for all eternity of a promised land. You cannot tell the Native Americans that they are actually they didn't come to America on slave ships, that they are the Native Americans, that they are the actual Hebrews that are in their own promised land. They are not from some distant land, some distant wild land that was made for abominations and the daughters and sons of Nephilim. That's what we call Africa today. That was not, that was a wild, dead land. That was not created. That was not blessed. Yeah. So if you have a land full of great incredibly fertile land like the United States, it is because it was promised to the Hebrews, who are still there today, but they think they came over on slave ships. So would you like to? Yeah, I mean, would you like some more theories? Let me know. Yeah, there are ancient sources, Gnostic sources. There are churches. There are Russian Orthodox churches that are built upon the belief that there is a lineage. And I think Russian people or the Tartarian people believe themselves to be of that lineage. That's why they had to have been removed. And I think that's why the Russian government keeps putting information into the media about the Tartarians, because they want, I guess, people to know. If the truth helps you, why not tell everyone the truth? If the truth benefits you in some way, But how much do people know? Because the reset wasn't that long ago. We had a reset in the 20th century. So we had a large number of 200 demonic entities thrown down here in the 20th century. Yeah, and many religions are built upon that too. They just don't talk about it. Yeah, we are told that 1914 was the beginning of World War I, but the beginning of World War I was 1498 when the European Moors invaded the United States, because they finally realized it was the promised land and it was where they came from. Yeah, and they were kicked out of Europe by the Slav, the kings of the Anglo-Saxons, Visigoth kings. Yeah, so we also have the 20s. I mean, they call it a myth, but there's some regional European folklore about Mary Magdalene spending her final years in a French cave. This is one of my favorite ones. Salahakali. So Mary Magdalene in France doesn't make any sense to most people. If you heard that story, you'd say, Mary Magdalene died in a cave in France. Okay, what are you talking about? It's interesting, but it's obviously fictional, right? No, it's not. No, France was the place where Mary Magdalene took her daughter. She was scared that her daughter would be found by the Romans. And they were trying to kill Jesus, right? Herod was trying to kill Jesus because they found out the prophecy. These people were very, very connected to what was going on in this ethereal realm that we don't seem to believe exists for the most part today. But the Romans were connected to this ethereal realm. They had people look at the stars. They couldn't find Jesus when he was a baby, and they killed hundreds of babies in Jerusalem because they wanted to make sure he could not grow up, he couldn't live. And then they put him on. Then Jesus ended up spending a lot of time, I think, hiding. They say he became a carpenter, which is not possible in Israel. He would have been a stonemason if it was Israel. If he became a carpenter, then that's another proof that it was a land full of trees, wood, timber, woodland. Maybe he even used the same wood that Noah used to build the ark, which is gopher wood, which is only found in the United States. So we can go on proving this. Once you've done the research, this will never leave you. Once you realize there is a four-headed river system in California, and there isn't any other biblically referenced four-headed river system in the world. There is only one. This helps us see that even the Garden of Eden was in the United States. But it's just there are so many things. We have the Saratama. Yes, California in the building. California. You are in the promised land, and I envy you for that. So Sarah Tamar, daughter of Yeshua, Mary Magdalene exists. Yeah. So Sarah Tamar, daughter of Yeshua. Yeshua obviously is the name of Jesus. I don't like to use the letter J because that is a Luciferian symbol. That is not part of our narrative. That was brought in from another the demonic universe, or another parallel universe. The letter J really shouldn't be in this realm. It was introduced. Neither should the letter G. All of these are hooks. All of these are like negative frequency constructs. But if I don't put Jesus and I put Yeshua, I was thinking maybe people don't know what I'm talking about. So Yeshua is actually Jesus' name, or Yahashua. So yeah, or at least it's closer to his name. I mean, I'm not a Hebrew speaker, so it exists between myth and legend, yeah. Yeah, so that's why obviously people in Palestine are going to be, apparently Palestine was where she came from. Obviously there is a Palestine, there are multiple Palestines, there are multiple Seas of Galilee, there are multiple Nazareth, there are multiple Romes, multiple Jerusalems. Finding the correct one is, I think, very important. So that's what I'm planning to do. Yes, so there are a lot of people doing great research, and I'm going to read a little article. So Sarah Tamar, daughter of Yeshua, and Mary Magdalene exists within our history. Yeah, so I believe from America to the south of France, she had to escape in order to ensure her daughter was safe. But America was called Tamari for many centuries. So I don't know if the name of America was Tamari because of her, or if Tamari became her name because that's where she was from. So this is the image behind me. So yeah, the azure waters is the prophecy. Oh, thank you for following me, Rennie. Yeah, I like to chat with people. I find it very inspiring. Because this is a journey. I don't know what the path is that I'm on, actually. I don't know what's going to happen next, but information is flowing from all dimensions. It is a fascinating time to be alive. Yeah, so I think it is Sarah Tamar is one of my greatest research projects at the moment. Sarah Tamar. The work of there are many people who are inspired by that. We have the Sahasrara chakra. Also, that is inspired by her. Maybe she was a medical. Maybe she was a healer, which makes sense, just like her father. And there's a spirituality. Many myths about her spirituality. Technical mastery. I think the hatred. The constant wars with France, because they decided to safeguard her, which makes you look at like the French people in a different way. We have to look into French culture more. We have to look into the French cities, even the French language, to try to see how it was inspired, and maybe it's a powerful thing. Yeah. So there were many protectors, the New Pauls or the Neo-Paulos. This is my theory. That we're not talking about Napoleon as one person, we're talking about a lineage of protectors of the Merovingian line or the Magdalenian line. The Merovingian is the line of Jesus. There is no line of Jesus unless he had a daughter, and her name was Tamari, the original name for the United States. This is such a powerful thing, and things are coming to me every day, new information. I have a map with Tartaria being land of Tamari. Yeah. So Tamari or Tartaria was the United States. And the United States also incorporated Grand Tartary, which is China. So what a gigantic empire. And then we have literally like we have a a little Tartary, which has the owl war banner insignia. So hiding this from people, I mean, the goal to hide Tartaria from people, if you think about the evil, right, to hide it from people. Or was there a reset and a complete memory wipe, and then they just decided not to tell us everything? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So we have so much work to do. There's so much work to do. If you see any more connections to biblical cities in America, please tell me. I found a lot of them. I'm trying to compare biblical scripture to the geography of the United States and the names of cities in the United States. We have a Sea of Galilee. We have a Nazareth. We have kind of almost more than we need, I think. Yeah. There's a lot more actually to do. There's a lot more I could talk about. Yeah. A lot of people have been mentioning this online recently, so I think this is like a frequency that many people are sharing with me. Yeah. So please tell me. Let's do a little poll. Okay. Was Tamari Jesus's daughter? Let's just do a poll. Let's try. What color do you want? Yellow. Let's do red. Okay, so you got a few different options there. Don't know if it's gonna work. Didn't work. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Damien. Okay. It says I can't create a short. I wasn't trying to. Okay, America is the true promised land. Done. Another way. Oh, the fact that there are so many points to the fact that these are universally true facts. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many of them. Yeah, thank you for the comments. We got some really good comments here. Yeah, so we have Europeans, the last right. Yeah, I mean, I think there are 12 lost tribes. Some people say there are 13. 13 is the belief that Eve had another child with a reptilian. And as crazy as that sounds, that's the 13th lineage that they believe exists. But you have to remember that a lot of this is just some ancient belief that sounds ridiculous to us because it's new. Yeah. I mean, 13 lineages or 12. I used to think there were 13, but now I think there's only 12 actual lineages. Yes, these can be found in the United States and in Europe. Yeah, trying to find out which lineage you are from should be your number one priority in life. And don't make it easy for yourself, please. Yeah, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Try to find out exactly what's going on. Yeah, thank you everyone for commenting. Yeah, Israel is in Polk County, yes, Texas, yeah. Founded by Israelites. Yeah, Israelites that are hiding. Obviously, not all Israelites are know who they are, and obviously not all are Zionists. Some are unaware of who they are. Even like you find a lot of Israelites in America. Yeah, that's interesting. Polk County. Also, you have uh, a lot of the Hebrews that are in Ireland and Scotland that escaped after the fall of Troy. Um, there are some interesting connections between Scotia and the Egyptian queen, Scotia, who I think she escaped to Spain, and then from Spain she went to Scotland. Yes, thank you. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it is hard to find information. Yeah, it's very difficult. So you have to train your intuition, and as you start to see that a lot of information is questionable, but be open-minded. That's the key. So Jesus and Mary had more than one child. They had more than one child. There are many ancient manuscripts that tell us that Sarah Tamari was one of his children, and she was, I think, the eldest. Then there were subsequent other children that Jesus and Mary had, but we have Yeshua, David, and John Joseph, and then the child of John the Baptist, and Mary Magdalene that Jesus adopted. Yeah, and then apparently I have heard that they all then many of them ended up in France. For some reason, the French or modern day France was where a lot of these principalities were going to protect them. Christian, what later became like the center of Christian modern day Christian belief and modern day Moorish Christian empire. And the rest of Europe, there were others in other parts of Europe. Not something that you're going to find on Google or you're going to find very easily. I mean, there'll be theories all over the world, but yeah, you will start to realize that there is a royal blessed bloodline. And when the revolutions happened, it was all about attacking that bloodline. The Edomites would then find out who they are as soon as everyone discovers who the royal lineage of Jesus. But they're not telling you who they are, because if you find out what Tamari was, and you find out who the Tartarians were, then you know who the Edomites are, the Canaanites, right? Then you're going to know that the people who think that they're the holiest and the closest to God, like the Vaticano, are actually not the lineage of Mary or Jesus. You have a lot of people online trying to say that obviously Jesus didn't exist. That's the easiest thing. If you take Jesus away, but then you have the connection between Jesus and Paul, so they have to first of all say Paul didn't exist, and then they can say Jesus didn't exist, because those two people obviously there's a lot of proof of them. But if you look at the best way to prove that is to look at there's a lot of references to France in the United States. The British royal family actually don't like France. The French are always attacked. There is an intense dislike between the British and the French for that reason, because they have a claim to supposedly being the royal lineage of Jesus, and that they are supposed to be ruling. It's funny because you have New Troy, which is London, and then you have Paris, the Prince of Troy. So these two there's a connection. Paris was a Prince of Troy, but they blame obviously Paris for the fall of Troy. And you know why they blame the Parisians for the fall of Troy? This is gonna blow your mind. Okay, they believe that Paris um, uh, caused the fall of Troy, but New Troy is actually London. So the hate between Brutus or British, the army, because British and Britain is named after the Trojan general that lost his army. Like, it is mental. It is crazy. I don't know how to describe it, but Paris, basically, the story is that Helen of Troy was actually belonged to Agamemnon's brother. So this is not fictional. Can you see what these are not fictional things. These are historic events. Paris fled. Okay, we are told he died, but Paris didn't die in the fall of Troy. He fled to France, and so did Tamari, and so did many other, like Queen Scotia at the fall of Kemet, Egypt. She also fled to Spain and France, yeah, and then to what is called Scotland today. So the remnants of their army was used to take over Scotland, kill all of the redhead giants, hundreds of redhead giants. In the end, the Romans gave up. They had to just build a wall called Hadrian's Wall. But all of this kind of, I mean, there's a few hundred years missing here and there of history. So yeah, so the hatred between the French and the British is all about the fall of Troy. Now, the location of Troy is actually in New Amsterdam or New York. Crazy. Yeah, so there was a great wall there too. Today it's called Wall Street, built by the Moors. So Europe was this safe place. And I think that's why Europe is such a beautiful place today. That's why there's so much great architecture there. Because almost every great empire constructs something far superior and doesn't make mistakes and does everything better and quicker. That's why you have countries like Singapore, Taiwan, Beijing, Shanghai in China. You have these cities that build within one generation. Everyone's gone from farming rice and fishing to living in smart cities, that skyscrapers that literally anything bigger than anything in Europe, because they didn't have to go through all of those industrial era stages of mining communities and the first tram, the first train, the first automobile, floods, fires because the buildings are too close to each other. So you can urban plan faster. So that's why Europe is so beautiful, and much more beautiful than some of the original historic places on Earth, because these are colonies of the Moors, colonies of the Egyptians, colonies of the Trojans. So they were able to construct in Europe a perfect city, a perfect collection of cities, and they called them after their own names. So even today, Paris is named after the Prince of Troy. Even today, you have like Berlin, which is named after the pearl, the Moorish Perlin, which is the pearl of the ocean. It's a Moorish name, but nobody in Berlin knows this. They have a bear as their mascot, but they don't realize it's not a bear. It's a dog man. It's a cynocephali. It's a great Roman warrior, and so many cities like that. Like the Vatican is just worshippers of the snake god. Iberian Peninsula, Moorish Empire. It's also clear to me, all of that. Like York is Troy. So you see that in Britain too. But there's a Birmingham, Alabama. There's a Birmingham, in England. There's a Stratford. This happens all the time. You have a Old York, New York, Old Troy, New Troy. People are trying to reverse history so that they know what's going on and you don't know anything. You live in the dark. You are the blind leading the blind. Yeah, so who is the Merovingian bloodline, and what was the bloodline of Sarah? Well, the Merovingian bloodline is the bloodline of Jesus. There couldn't be a bloodline of Jesus. There couldn't be a Merovingian bloodline. It's called Merovingian because it's a French bloodline, because that's where she escaped to France to escape from America, which was ruled by the Moorish Romans. The Yamasee Indians had Roman scutum shields. I've done a video on this. Check out my TikTok, Instagram, whatever. They were Romans. The Greeks were the Creek Indians were the Greeks. They were the ones with built all the pillars. There's more pillars and temples and pyramids in America than in Europe. There weren't even pyramids in Egypt. If you look at maps of the 1500s, 1400s, you can get the maps online. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. You can look at the maps online. There's no Great Pyramid on the Giza Plateau. Yeah, even the Sphinx didn't look the way it does now. I think all of that stuff was built in the last maybe in the last 300 years, maybe. I mean, most countries are only 200 years old. So Morocco was not in Africa; it was in America. Yeah. Yeah. If you know what you're looking for, you'll find it. You'll find it. Trust me. God is on your side. Truth is gonna win. It's gonna meet you halfway every time. Yeah. So yes, lots of information on Jesus and Mary's daughter. Not much information on their son. So I'm still looking for their son, David, Yeshua David, and then he was the youngest. The eldest was called John Joseph. So Jesus called his eldest son the name of his father. That was traditional. Yeah. And his kingdom was Tamari America. And if this theory continues to hold water the way that it has been for me over the last 2 months, then The Flight from Judea is going to be probably the title of many a book soon. You know, which I feel like I should be writing a book. So we got the law states that after Jesus' crucifixion, a group of early Christians were placed in a rudderless boat by the Romans, and then they ended up crossing the Mediterranean, and they ended up in the southern coast of France on this. And this is today called the French Riviera, Santes Marias de la Mer. Santes Marias de la Mer. Sarah Tamar, Jesus' daughter. I don't know if the son went with him. The son may have been taken by someone else to keep safe. Arguably 2 sons, David and Joseph. The 2 sons went 2 different locations. We will find out which those are. And those people on those lineages are going to have a crazy amount of guardian angels at birth. I know this for a fact. So I don't know what they're being chosen to do. But this physical lineage on Earth is very important. And it's mentioned in another way to find out more information is to look for the books that were removed. Book of Jubilees, Book of Mary, Book of Enoch. All of the clues were removed from the Bible by King James. So why is King James removing this? Don't be hasty and start hating on King James, because there are other translations too. And this is interesting because it might be also to protect the lineage. And if no one knows who the lineage is, then those people will be safe. Can you see what I mean? I'm not always going to presume that somebody is doing this for nefarious purposes. So King James Bible did remove, originally we had 88 books. Now we have 66. There's a lot missing, and I think that a lot of that is from the New Testament. If you're aware of that, of the amount of books that were missing, in 1611, the King James Bible only had 80 books, which is obviously more than we have today. and 14 books known as the Apocrypha, which were officially removed from most Protestant editions in 1885. These 14 books were not considered inspired scripture by Protestant reformers. I mean, how do you get to the place where you remove books from the Bible? I mean, you have to be such low frequency that you think somehow doing it now, after literally millennia has gone by, and now it is time to do this. Now it's time to remove books from the Bible to hide Jesus's family tree, family lineage, the Merovingian line. Also, the connection between the French and the Merovingian is fascinating, really. I mean, I've seen this in movies. I've seen the connection, even the word itself, I think, is French. So, yeah, the palm, Saratama, the palm tree. I think that she is important because the lineage always goes along the female line, not the male line, like we are told at school. These books were placed between the Old and New Testament in the original 1611 edition. So at 1611 they started to separate the books. Here are the books that will help you find out. And every one of these books, interestingly enough, I'll put a list maybe in the comments. Every one of these books gives you information and clues about like important issues like the giants, Nephilim, the sons of the fallen angels. The book of Esther gives you a lot of information about Jesus' lineage. Then you have Sirach, which is also known as Ecclesiasticus. There is an Ecclesiastes. It's called Ecclesiasticus. Yeah, I mean, you're getting all the information that they don't want you to know, and I think if they don't want you to know something, it's kind of more important than everything else. So we have Bel and the Dragon, the Prayer of Manasseh, First Maccabees, Second Maccabees. Yeah, so the books were not removed by King James either. That's another. I mean, it's called the King James Version, so we're saying King James took them out. But the books were not necessarily all removed by him. This is the British Bible Society that did that. I mean, he wasn't alive in 1827 when they did it. Yeah, and then it formally happened in 1885. So the British government is pretty much in charge of what we call the Bible today. So why were they removed? Well, Martin Luther was the reformer, and he called them the Apocrypha. And this is useful for historical context. Yeah, once they're gone, they were, they would then have permission to, I suppose, burn them. Burn old Bibles, yeah, which they love to do, to burn old Bibles. Because obviously the Vatican is not actually following in God's footsteps. It's not in the line of the Merovingian. The Vatican is the pagan Moorish empire that is trying to remove Christianity, but at the same time control it. So if you remember, Emperor Constantine decided that Rome would abandon all of its gods that they took from the Greek gods, and the Greek in turn took from the Indian gods, right, and the Egyptian gods. So those Egyptian gods are the original gods, and they are still in the Vatican today. They're hidden, but they're still in the Vatican today. The Vaticano itself is worshipping pagan religion, worshipping satanic beliefs, the pagan religions of Rome. The name Vaticano, the Viper, the king of the dragon, yeah, Dragon King. So this is fact. This is what I found. Now, Eastern Orthodox churches did decide that the books. Yes, the Vatican is built on top of the Moorish temples. They're underground. Everything's underground. Everything's. I mean, you could argue that the world that you see is the above ground world, but everything is underground. A tunnel is just a street that somebody has found, and they built supportive beams to continue traveling along that road. I think politicians, celebrities all use these underground tunnels. You're going to have every city connected by streets. Maybe I would say like 50% of the tunnel is already constructed because it's literally the floor, the street. You just have to find where it is. Post-flood, you've seen in every city on Earth windows that are halfway underground, right? If you walk down the street, I mean, you're not going to remember something you never saw before or you didn't notice. But from this day forth, when you walk down a street, an old street, a cobbled street, any street, have a look left and right everywhere you walk, and look for partially submerged windows and steps going up to doorways as opposed to a doorway built on the level of the road. I don't know if this is some kind of biblical poetry that's going on here, where the great flood of Noah's Day, or the great reset, the great deluge, whatever you want to call it, was designed by God and his warrior angels to be exactly at the height that no doorway of the ancient pre-reset buildings would be able to be level to the ground. And it is a crazy poetry, and I see this almost like God is our creator God, Atum, Yahweh, whatever you want to call him, Jehovah. Our creator God has such a wonderful sense of humor that he will cause a flood, which, and obviously any flood of water is going to end up as being a sediment mud flood, right? Any flood will be mud. We don't really have to say mud flood because there is no such thing as a flood without mud, right? So he let it settle, maybe I would say around 7 meters above the original, and it will continue to happen. Every time there's not a single good man left, we'll get another flood, and it'll be another 3 floors of a building or something, or 2.5 floors of a building. So it's perfect. It's like no building was built or prepared for that. Even though I've noticed some Luciferian constructions with demons instead of angels outside the sort of ornamentals of buildings. So it's not an angel anymore, it's a demon now. And I've seen people build buildings like that intentionally. Some multimillionaire who's probably worshipping Satan, trying to get monetary gains in this 3-dimensional reality, building demonic entities outside buildings. So you're not being protected by an angel, you're being protected by a demon, which could look like a bird, or you have these gargoyles and they tell you it's to scare off spirits. No, you're worshipping demonic entities, and they did that in the past too. But modern buildings, be careful if you look at a modern high-rise building and you want to move into that building, and you have these weird, they look like angels, but they don't really have, because they can't give them angel wings. They have to give them a bat wing or some kind of metallic Art Deco armor. Have you seen those buildings? And that is a demon. That is not. They know exactly which demon it is. They picked one of Solomon's lesser keys of 72 demons to choose from, and they chose someone. They chose one of them for themselves that they're going to worship with their. You can find this information. Like, you can look at King Solomon before he turned back to God and became who we know as today, a very holy man. But before he was a holy man, he was Aladdin. He was the person in the cave who found all the knowledge, and he started to control demons to build great palaces for him. So the architects could have been trained in heaven and then fallen down. So yeah, I mean, these were initially angels. Even Satan was an angel, Lucifer. He was made of music and sound and instruments. Yeah. So there's so much in the Bible. Also, you have to read the books of the Apocrypha, so that you know everything, not just what they want you to know, because they cut the Bible up. You know, these are evil people that cut up a Bible after it being available to everyone for hundreds of years. If you were able to read, first they don't want you to read, and then they cut off pieces of the Bible. There were 88 books. 8 books are missing. We don't know even what their names are. Yeah, if you would like more information about the 88 books, 88 books of the Bible, that's what we are looking for. We've only found 80 of them, but some, obviously 66 of them are in the Bible. 66 is coincidentally also a number that is attributed to Lucifer, so they're trying to curse the Bible, but at the same time they can't remove it. It is too important. We know that there are 88 books in the Bible because we know that the instruments in heaven that God created for us on earth, that have frequencies that are also colors and that are also healing frequencies, right? That there were always 88 strings on every harpsichord. The harpsichord, an ancient instrument that was a gift to us from angels, because demons are not the only one that have given us gifts. Angels have also given us gifts, obviously, right? There were 88 books in the original Bible and 88 strings on the harpsichord. And today the harpsichord has been laid flat and it is a piano. And if you look at your piano, you will also find 88 keys. 88 keys. And Solomon also used these keys. He had 88 keys, and then he had 72 lesser keys. The lesser keys are the demons that he summoned. Should we call them demons? I think we should call them demons because they're very negative entities. But they are of the mundial nature. They are of the physical realm. And he was able to control them just through sound, through picking different kinds of animals. Like rotten fish seemed to control a lot of them. They didn't like rotten fish. They didn't like dead animals. So he was able to control them and get them to build temples for him. Amazing stories. Amazing. So the Catholic Bible still retains many of the books, such as Tobit, Judith, and Maccabees. These are still in the Catholic Bible. So the Catholics had a much larger Bible than the Protestants. And so within the Old Testament, and they were put into the Old Testament, which is pretty cool. You have the letter to Jeremiah, the Song of Three Holy Children, the story of Susanna. We should know these books as we do Romans, Corinthians, Mark, Luke, John. Yeah, we should know these books. They were in the Bible for centuries before King James came along. We have had so much stolen information. There is a book called The Idol Bell and the Dragon. We have no idea what's in these books. The Prayer of Manasseh. We have the Book of Enoch, which tells us all about how these Nephilim are part of the algorithm. They're part of our construct. How they are now part of this reality, and nobody says they cannot ascend. They cannot be holy people. What if we find out that almost every politician had to be within a Nephilim bloodline? You know, so people have theorized that. That information was taken away because the books of the Bible were taken away. So we don't know that Tamari was Jesus' daughter. It's not common knowledge. We don't know that he had 2 other sons. We don't know that the French were welcoming them and protecting them. Yeah, we think of Napoleon as a terrible person, but we should think of all of the Neapolitans, all of the new Pauls or the new Apollos. When someone tells you Apollo is Satan, well, they're missing the point. Who is Neo-Apollo? Who are the new Pauls? And did they steal that to make Paul the first pope? Did they steal all of that in order to create their own claim to being followers of Christ? But everyone became followers of Christ. Even the Romans abandoned all of their Greek gods that they, like, for example, they took all of the Greek gods, the Romans, and they abandoned them. They abandoned all of their gods, all of their temples. Yeah. So you can compare the Greek to the Roman god. You may have done this at school. This is not, some kind of crazy secret. So you have Apollo, or the new Paul, who is Napoleon, new Apollo, the protectors of the line of the Merovingians. Apollo is a Roman god. He's a Greek god. We have Bacchus, which was taken from the Roman Dionysus, which was also taken from India as well. Dionysus was stolen from Indian gods. Hindustan, it was called. 300 years ago, India was called Hindustan. Then we have Ceres, which was a Roman god. He was taken from Demeter. Colus was Uranus. Cupid, they stole the idea of Cupid, the Romans, from Eros. And then Hercules was taken from Heracles. Juno was Hera. Jupiter was Zeus. Then we have Latona was Leto. Mars was Ares, god of war. They stole all the gods. Like, the Romans just took the Creek Indian gods. The Creek Indians were worshipping Zeus, lightning, etheric energy. And Hermes became Mercury. God of the sky, Mercury. Right? Mercury today, obviously we know that the airships were using Mercury, and the lighthouses were using Mercury, and it was all about travel, air travel, the great secrets of the electromagnetic airships of the German Empire, which is also the Moorish Empire. And then we have Poseidon, Poseidon, the Greek god of the ocean realms, and Neptune. The Romans just stole that, the idea, from the Greeks, and created Neptune. Athena became Minerva. Hades became Pluto. So Persephone became Proserpina, and then Cronus, Saturn, Cronus, underworld. Saturn, Satan, Aphrodite, Venus. Hephaestus became Vulcan, god of rocks. Still worshipped in China, the Roman Vulcan. There are many temples to Vulcan in China too. People don't realize there are Roman cities in China, such as Kar. There are blonde-haired Roman Chinese children in China too. This is the Grand Tartary, the origin of the Tartarian Empire. And they abandoned all of that. All of their gods that they took from the Greeks. They chucked them all away just to follow Jesus Christ, and create the Holy Roman Catholic Church. That's how powerful, that's how much of an impact Yeshua had on the Native Americans, the original Roman Empire. And then they had colonies in Italy, of course, France, and they ended up ruling the whole world, the Moors, the Roma Mora. And that is the truth of our realm. That is and everything will fit. And you won't lose a debate when you are so close to truth and fact. So another interesting point here is that the man, many people believe that it was Constantine. That it was Constantine who was the emperor of Rome, who turned to Christendom, because he saw how powerful Jesus was, how powerful he saw Jesus' lineage becoming. He couldn't kill Jesus. Herod could not kill Jesus as a baby. Jesus and obviously his daughter escaped to France, and it was over. The American Moorish Roma Empire could not continue, and throughout history there hasn't been such a thing, like a man who ended up ruling the empire and removing the Moors completely, the Romans completely. And I feel like Italy maintained a relationship with the Moors and became a Moorish stronghold. Germany still became a Moorish stronghold. Portugal was always a Moorish stronghold. And Spain, obviously we know the Iberian Peninsula, Spain, Mauritania, Al-Andalusia was still this Moorish stronghold. But the Moors did not like the power of Jesus' name. So Constantine had a vision, or at least that's what we are told. That's how our history was rewritten by the Moorish Empire. That Constantine had a vision how Rome would become Christian. There was no other way to survive. And people will try to tell you that it wasn't Constantine. They love to do that. So in the 4th century, he was the first Christian emperor, and he saw the empire begin to become this Christian state. Was he the one who actually made that decision? I don't think he was. I think that's something that we are told that is not true, that he wasn't. But Constantine's father became the Western Roman Emperor in 305. And after his father's death, Constantine fought to take power, and he became the Western Emperor, and then turned really essentially all of Europe Christian. Before that, it was only America that was Christian, because it was then ruled by Jesus' lineage. The conquest of the Roman Empire, or the Moorish Empire, because they are the same, was what happened much later, though. America, I don't think, was conquered until the 1400s, completely conquered by this new Christian Moorish Empire. That's where we get the Crusades from. Now remember, 1,000 years has been added onto our history. That's why these two events do seem really far apart. Like, how can you have the Moors invade Spain in 711 AD, and then rule Spain, rule Portugal, rule most of France, because they really wanted to get into France, to rule that part of Europe for 700 years. You know, and I mean, you have the Moorish palaces in Spain today, Alhambra Palace. You know, even in Germany you have Moorish. I mean, if you think about the original Sicilian flag had 4 Moorish kings on the blood of the nation Red Cross. Yeah, so this is incredible. I mean, how does this link up with the original Constantine becoming Christian? Well, you know, Europe or the Roman Empire did not become Christian until he became the Western Emperor in 312. Yeah, so this is it took 300 years for the Roman Empire to slowly fall apart because of Jesus, and finally become Christian. Like, that is, it's just incredible. It's an incredible thing to think about. Yeah, so in 289, Constantine's father left Helena to marry the stepdaughter of Maximian, the Western Roman Emperor, and Constantine's father was elevated to deputy emperor under Maximian in 393. And then you have the Diocletian, the Eastern Roman Emperor. He then educated Constantine in Latin and Greek, and he likely also witnessed the persecution of Christians. So, I mean, growing up with the persecution of Christians, being part of the royal family, it just seems really strange to then decide to become Christian. There must have been some powerful Christian empire that was already taking over America, and I think that was Jesus' son David. And I think Jesus' son David took over America, called it Tamarian, and we have the Merovingian dynasty. Now, when did this fall? And I think it fell because if you want to deflate an empire, you have to remove what differentiates them from you, so that you can do it militarily. And I think that's what Constantine's plan was. If we are all Christians, then your Merovingian line and my Moorish line, it no longer gives me an advantage, or it no longer gives you an advantage over me. Yeah. So Constantine continued to proclaim his adherence to Christianity, and completely threw away all of the. I mean, I don't know how it's possible for a Roman emperor to remove all of his ancient gods. He must have been so desperate, because Jesus' kingdom was so powerful, or Jesus' sons were militarily so well equipped that they had this giant North American empire that obviously has been looted after the 1400s by the European Crusades. They weren't going to the Middle East; they were going to America, to the Promised Land. Yeah, so that's how we have to rewrite history. The whole video. Yeah, the whole video. Not sure. Not sure which video you want, but yeah, there's long format is always on my YouTube. It does take me a few days sometimes a week, before I edit and post everything. But it's all going to end up on my YouTube, because that's where I go back to reference my own theories. Yeah. So Constantine. I'm going to talk about the end of his life. Constantine was in Helenopolis, planning a campaign against Persia when he fell ill. Now, the Persian is the Tartarian, okay? And Gallia, yes, Gauls, Galilea, yeah. Yes, all the names are actually, it's interesting. Thank you. It's interesting, John, how a lot of the names are hidden within the new names, so the old names. Yeah, Portugal, Port of the Mughal, Galatians, Gaelic, yeah. No, it's very interesting. Greeks, yeah. The Roman Moor, yeah. I mean, it's just you move the letters around. Roma, Mora, yeah. Like the Norman was the Mormon. The Mormon is the Moor. So you know what you're talking about. If you see old posters of Nazi Germany in World War II, the propaganda posters will tell you everything you need to know about who the Nazis were and who the people were that wanted to destroy them. And the communists are not the good guys. The communists are not the good guys. Like, the communists, like, you look into Karl Marx's original name and some of the things he wrote, and the references to what his father called him and things like that. Yeah. I might do a video on that. So you find the original names in the old names. You always do. It's funny. That's very interesting. Yeah. So we have here some information about Constantine died on May the 22nd, 337 maybe, in Ancyrona near Nicomedia in Bithynia, modern day Turkey, Izmit, Turkey. So Turkey is also one of the great Tartarian cities of the past. And at the approximate age of 57, he was buried in Constantinople at the Church of the Apostles, which we know that's obviously his namesake, Constantinople. Yeah, was that? Yeah, that's the original name of the capital city. Turkey, capital city of Turkey. Yeah. So 220 AD to 337. So yeah, he is attributed to changing. Sorry, Istanbul is the modern name for Constantinople. He is actually also known for fighting the Visigoths, who were also known for protecting Europe against the Moors in 711 AD. That was the army that the Moors were fighting. So I think we have a lot of clues as to who Constantine was. But yes, I mean, Constantine removing all of the old Greek gods, which must have taken centuries for even that to happen. So I don't know how. I mean, I don't think he made a decision to remove the Roman gods and bring in Jesus's Christian faith. There must have been a lot of other events there. I don't think it was simply him on a road seeing a light, because that's the story of Saul. Now, Saul was a hunter of Christians, and then he saw a light, and was it the Sea of Galilee, or he was on his way to Nazareth? No, he was on his way to Jerusalem, maybe, and he saw a light on the road to Gethsemane. So he's on the road to Gethsemane. A light blinds him, and Saul then changes his mind about hunting Christians and instead ends up becoming a follower of Jesus and ends up writing many books. That's Saul Paul, not the Apostle Paul. So that's very interesting. Now, and he also said he met Jesus as well. There's a story that he meets Jesus again on the road. He meets Jesus and has some relationship with Jesus. So he becomes like an eyewitness of Jesus. There are, I mean, it's interesting. There aren't that many people who wrote down much in the Bible and who were eyewitnesses. So that's very interesting. And even some of the scriptures, like some of the books, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, weren't written during Jesus' lifetime, I think, as well. So there's some real powerful spiritual divine connection between these people, between the people that authored the books and were able to connect with each other and can be referenced with each other. And the timelines are fascinating. So another really interesting fact is that when Constantine decided to remove the Roman gods and replace them with Christianity, that I think then that was this Tartarian peace. That you have this great Tartarian peace, this great peace between the European empires and America. And I think when he died, you begin to see that shift. And then I think a few hundred years later, you have the complete opposite occur, which is the Moorish empires invading Europe. And then when the Moors are finally kicked out of Europe. So I think that Jesus' Merovingian lineage was petitioned by God to invade Europe, to stop the pagan, which is also a biblical event, so it's like almost prophetic. But you can't draw those connections unless you know that Tamari, Jesus' daughter, fled to France because they already cleaned France of all the pagan religions, so she knew she was safe there. I guess. I mean, but you're talking about something that was maybe 2,000 years ago, according to our mainstream timeline. But actually, we had 1,000 years added for this purpose, so that we cannot find the connection, that we have suddenly this incredibly long period of time where nothing happened, no history, called the Dark Ages, but it was actually just fake added time, so that we wouldn't be able to work this out. And then obviously 711, you do have the invasion of the Moors in Spain. And then when the Moors are finally pushed out, it's then suddenly it's 1498. And the Visigoths push out Isabella, I think, was the queen of France, that pushes out the Moors. And they all end up on boats. The Berbers and the Moors end up on ships. Whatever's left of the Umayyad ends up spreading throughout the Iberian Peninsula, back to the Middle East, back to Persia and America. So where is America on our accurate maps? Because our maps are wrong, because our timelines are wrong. Everything's wrong. So I think America is actually somewhere in Eastern Europe. That's the only thing that makes sense. So America is an ancient land. It's right in the middle of our map. It is the Tamari. It is the Kushata. It is the Amaruka. It is those 4 plots of land right in the middle of our realm, and that is the Khazar land. So it fits as well. It fits in, but I'll do that another time. Yeah, it's a great age of awakening, and Jesus' lineage will be traced back to Tartaria, to the United States of America, and we will find his sons too. We will find out which lineage that is, and I don't want anyone to worry about finding out that you're a lineage that's being like targeted by the Canaanites and the Edomites, because if you are part of that lineage, you don't have anything to worry about in this realm, and you are born apart as the defenders, the Napoleons, the Neopauls, Bonaparte. They are born apart from everyone else, and I think it's going to be a pleasant surprise once we get to the end of this research. So thank you everybody for joining me. I will keep plowing away and getting as much proof as I can of Tamari's escape from the Promised Land to France. And I'm sure French people already, I think maybe the Southern Riviera, I think that a lot of people know that this is a lineage, and they just don't have a voice. So I'm going to try to provide that voice to the people who saved Tamari and the lineage of the Merovingians. Thank you very much for listening. If you'd like me to do more of this, because this is my research and I feel very passionate about it. If you'd like me to do more like lives on YouTube, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Yeah, Bonaparte, thank you. Yeah, Bonaparte. Not one person. Napoleon was not one person. He was multiple guardians of the Merovingian line. Thank you very much. And till next time, goodbye.